Hello students, this video will help us to understand another life process that is about respiration. Now first of all, you need to understand what exactly respiration is. Do not get confused with breathing. Now respiration is the process of releasing energy from organic molecules for use by the cells. That means whatever simple products of digestion are there, they will be broken down to release energy, and the energy will be in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, that is being used up by the living organisms. Remember, breathing is only a part of respiration. Now, as we discuss about respiration, respiration is classified into two groups: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, in this slide, if you see, aerobic respiration requires glucose and oxygen, and it will produce energy, carbon dioxide, and water. Whereas anaerobic respiration will require only the glucose, that will produce very less energy, carbon dioxide, than lactic acid or alcohol. Now when we will describe about these two processes, it will become easier for you to understand. Now here it's a difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, where we say that aerobic respiration requires oxygen, aerobic respiration doesn't require any oxygen. Whereas aerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and mitochondria, anaerobic respiration will take place only within the cytoplasm. Aerobic respiration will produce more energy, anaerobic respiration will produce less energy. Now, aerobic respiration will take place in most of the cells like RBC, brain cells, heart muscle cells, etc. Whereas anaerobic respiration will usually take place in yeast and some bacteria, and in case of human muscle cells under some specific conditions. Now let's start with breakdown of glucose by anaerobic pathway. What happens during the muscle cells? Now suppose when an individual undergoes heavy exercise, what will happen? He will utilize more oxygen than what is available within him. So the glucose present in the cytoplasm will be first broken down to produce pyruvate and ATP. Now this pyruvate remains within the cytoplasm only, and due to the lack of oxygen, it will start producing lactic acid. Now this lactic acid keeps on accumulating within the muscle cell, and the person suffers from muscle cramps. In another case, the anaerobic pathway can also take place within the yeast body, and the process we call it as fermentation. Now the similar process occurs that the pyruvate that is generated within the cytoplasm in absence of oxygen remains within the yeast cell cytoplasm only, and in the absence of oxygen it will produce alcohol in the form of ethanol, carbon dioxide, and alongside two molecules of ATP will be generated. So since alcohol is a fermented product, that's why any type of fermentation will take place only under anaerobic conditions. Finally, the aerobic breakdown of glucose, where the glucose will initially break down into a 3-carbon molecule called as pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Now this pyruvate can now enter within the mitochondria in presence of oxygen. So as it breaks down, it will produce carbon dioxide, water, and all total around 38 ATP molecules. So this is why we say that complete breakdown of food will take place in case of aerobic respiration, whereas in case of anaerobic respiration, incomplete breakdown of food will take place. Now, as we discuss about the form of energy, we have already told you that the energy that is generated within the cells is called ATP, full form adenosine triphosphate, that is known as the energy currency of the cell. Now, this will provide fuel to all the cellular activities, whether it is in movement, locomotion, or any biochemical reaction that is taking place within the body. Now, as and when we talk about ATP, this ATP will undergo different types of endothermic reactions. So, endothermic reactions means those reactions that will absorb the heat. So, as it absorbs the heat, for absorption also energy is required, and that energy is given by ATP. Now, as you can see here, I have mentioned that one ATP molecule will produce around 30.5 kilojoule per mole of energy. And this ATP is used for different vital life processes like contraction of muscles, protein making, repair of cell, conduction of nerve impulses, molecules entering and exiting the plasma membrane. Now, as we discuss about the process of respiration in case of plants, plants have got different types of very small pores present in their body. Now, the leaves have got the pores in the form of stomata, which helps in the exchange of gases. Now, the process that will help is diffusion, that is movement of gases from a region of high concentration to low concentration. Now, this particular process will take place during the daytime as well as during the night time. But which type of gas will be exchanged, that will be different in both the cases. Now, during the daytime, we know that photosynthesis is the main process where green plants will actually prepare their food. Now, during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is taken inside, whereas oxygen is released outside. Whereas during the night time, there is no photosynthesis that will be occurring. So, oxygen will be utilized by the plants, and in return, they will give out carbon dioxide. That is why it is advised that during the night time, we should not go near the plants because they release huge amount of carbon dioxide at that particular moment. Now, a similar type of process is observed in case of terrestrial animals. Now, we know that in case of terrestrial animals, they actually breathe oxygen from the atmospheric oxygen, and lungs is the main respiratory organ for them. Now, as and when we discuss about this particular portion, the major thing that you have to remember that the process of diffusion will take place from high concentration to low concentration, that is from atmosphere to the lungs. Now, since the amount of oxygen is quite higher in atmospheric air, terrestrial animals are not going to breathe them faster. They will breathe it very slowly, and they will carry out the process with the help of the proper respiratory system. On the other hand, aquatic animals, they will take in oxygen from water, which is present in dissolved form. So that oxygen, whatever is being taken through their gills, will actually move at a faster rate. So aquatic animals, remember, they have a faster breathing mechanism as compared to terrestrial animals. Now, human beings, the major portion which you have to understand, the respiratory system of human beings and how it is actually designed. If you see in this particular chart, we have mentioned about the different areas of the respiratory system like the nasal passage, oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs. Heart is not directly involved, but still it is one of the more important part. Rib cage, that will help in the inhalation and exhalation part. Now, as we start with the respiratory system, remember oxygen will be inhaled through the nostrils that will actually have fine hairs and mucous membrane. Now that will humidify the air that is entering inside and will also trap the dust molecules which are present. Now from the nostrils, it will pass through the nasal cavity, goes through the pharynx and then to the larynx. Now within the larynx, you remember there are vocal cords that are present. So when air will pass through them, the cords will start to vibrate. Now as they start to vibrate, sound will be produced. That's why larynx is known as our vocal box or voice box. Now from the larynx, the air will pass through a pipe-like structure that is called as the trachea or the windpipe. Now this windpipe has got rings of cartilage present. If you see in the diagram, now these rings of cartilage will protect the trachea. It will prevent it from collapsing when the air is passing through it. Now, as you can see here, the movement, how it will take place. The oxygen-rich air from the environment will pass through the nasal cavity, then to the pharynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and then to the alveoli, which is the site of exchange of gases. Now, oxygen and carbon dioxide will be exchanged at the alveoli and then the return process will occur. Carbon dioxide will go through bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, pharynx, nasal cavity, and then it is released into the environment. Remember, the process will be helped by blood capillaries as well as the diffusion process. Now, when we discuss about inhalation and exhalation, the major point to be remembered that during the two mechanisms, there are certain changes that will take place within our body. Now suppose during inhalation, that is when we are inhaling oxygen, our chest cavity will expand. The ribs and all will become larger. Now the diaphragm is going to contract at that particular moment. Now as it will contract at that particular moment, it becomes easier for the oxygen to get inside the body. In a similar manner, when exhalation is going to take place, the diaphragm is going to relax. As it relaxes, the chest cavity will contract, rib cages and all will return to the normal size, and thus carbon dioxide rich air will go out of the body. Now, as and when the inhalation and exhalation process is occurring, it becomes pretty much easier for us to understand how the movement of the gases will take place within our body. Now finally, to understand the gaseous exchange in alveoli, remember alveoli is a very small balloon-like structure that is found within the lungs. Now this alveoli doesn't actually have the ability to directly undergo the gaseous exchange. It has blood capillaries present and the membrane is highly expandable. So the expandable membrane of the alveoli helps in increasing the surface area of the lungs, and that will also help in the exchange of gases in a faster manner. Now, once we discuss about this, from the alveoli, oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported in a different manner. Oxygen is being carried by hemoglobin, which is called as the respiratory pigment, whereas carbon dioxide will get dissolved in the blood where water is going to carry it. Finally, lungs has got a residual volume of air which is present that will enable it to use it during the time gap between inhalation and exhalation. So, this is a brief summary about your complete respiration life process, from where you will be able to understand how does the process of respiration and gaseous exchange takes place in the living organisms. Thank you.